Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Open Cluster Management Community Meetings. On the agenda today, yours truly, I'll be presenting the Argo CD agent. Give a little bit introduction to it, and then I'll talk about our integration with that agent model. Let me share my screen. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So unfortunately, John, who's the Argo CD maintainer and the contributor to most of the slides, or is not able to make it because of the time zone differences. But I'll try to do my best to present the Argo CD part as best as I can, and then I will invite Jan over to the OCM-io office hour, and maybe we can do a recorded presentation and demo within a minute, and then it'll be uploaded to YouTube as well. But for now, I'll run through the introductory to the Argo CD agent project, why it was needed, what's going on in that repo, and what does it do, and just most of the high-level overview, and our integration and what OCM-io can offer to that project. So Jan Fisher is a Argo CD maintainer. I think he's probably either top 3 or top 2 or top 5 contributors to the Argo CD main repo, and he is the main author to the Argo CD agent project. And then I'm the community advocate for OCM-io, as you know. Okay, let's talk about why we need to create this Argo CD agent project, right? What's the limitation of the Argo CD? So we talked a little bit about it before. This is the classic Argo CD multi-cluster setup. You have one control plane cluster with the Argo CD app controller, and then you sort of push the application. You connect to the remote cluster through sort of a push model, and then it's because you're connecting as you're connecting to many clusters, it becomes quite compute intensive to watch other cluster states. So one way to sort of solve that push this type of model push model is by sharding. So the app controller, you can shard it to so each app controller can manage a little bit more subset of clusters. So this is something that's already inside Argo CD. But then as you do more sharding, it becomes pretty hard to manage. And then your control plane just cluster is still getting bigger and bigger and getting more and more resource intensive, right? There's no there's no delegating the workload to another cluster even in this current method. So okay, what if you have multiple control plane, right? Now now you can sort of have a limited amount of clusters that you manage. You're still doing push, but at least hey, you do multiple control plane cluster, and then with the sharding is a little bit managed. But then how do you manage these control plane, right? So it's another issue of the manage ability. So and again, and then you put an Argo on every cluster with no control plane. Again, that's really hard to manage as well. So these are some of the limits with the Argo CD scaling, and that's why we needed to come up with some solution to solve this issue. So enter the project Argo CD agent and OCM-io. We're gonna distribute Argo CD, and then with a single plane glass to give central management and observability. So I'm gonna talk first about the Argo CD agent. So the agent is sort of similar to how OCM-io work. We are outsourcing the compute to these worker node clusters. So all the agents are deployed on the spoke clusters, and they communicate back to the central control plane. So wait a second. It sounds quite similar to what we have before, right? In OCM-io, we introduced the Argo CD pool model. So if you remember the pool model integration, we had the dormant application on the hub side, and then we wrap it with a manifest work, and then it push the application payload down to, I mean, the spoke cluster pull the application payload down to its local side, and then it reconcile and do all the resource reconciliation there, resource deploy there, and then the status gets sent back to the hub for display. So you're still managing your application on the hub layer, and then stuff are being pulled and sort of delegate down the hard workload, like the application controllers, onto the managed cluster, so spoke side. And then there's also the other platforms like ArgoCD platform, which has a hub spoke model as well, but it is closed source. And then Red Hat Advanced Cluster Management, which uses the OCM-io Argo CD pool models. So why do we need the agent in this case? So one of the thing is, so Acuity is a closed source, and this Argo CD agent project is open source. So which means we're gonna get more community contributors. We're gonna leverage the power of open source, more eyes on it, and then hopefully we'll get more vendor integration and other project integration, such as what we're doing, and we accelerate the project and solve the Argo CD scalability problem that way. And when comparing against the Argo CD pool model that the OCM-io has. So in OCM-io on the hub side, so which is the dormant application that got the status feedback, because the manifest work, we don't want to overload the manifest work with too much data. We are only syncing the high level status on the from the spoke back to the hub. So in this case, we're only syncing the overall health of the application itself, and the if it's the application is in sync. In sync means if the Git repo manifest matches with what is actually deployed. But if you use the Argo CD agent, you have the complete status. So not only you're able to see the overall health and the sync status, but you also have all the details there, as well as the resources that are deployed and the status of those resources, and the health of those resources are being computed as well. And those will help when you come back on the hub side. You can see the using the Argo CD UI, you can see when it parses this application status, it'll display more details. So those are the reason why we need sort of this Argo CD agent project. So architecture of this Argo CD agent and design, a very simplified and high level overview. So on the control plane cluster, you're still gonna have the Argo CD UI and the API, but the heavy compute workload Argo CD application controller is now on the workload cluster or the spoke cluster or the managed cluster. And then you still have you have a principal here. Principal is a server, and then which is the spoke agent is gonna connect to it through gRPC, and then that's sort of the principal sort of reflects the application that is on the workload cluster. So there are two modes to this reflection. There's managed and autonomous. I will get into those modes later, but essentially we're basically doing the heavy lifting at the workload cluster, and then we're reflecting back the status for this agent and the principal. Okay, so when you have multiple of these, then you have the multiple different control application controllers, and each have the different clusters, and then you talk back to the principal through the gRPC, and then you can view, the status of all these applications on a control and in the control plane cluster Argo CD UI. So everything in the current project is, it's up for discussion, but there are certain design principles that Jan sort of set, and these are some of the foundation principles that he wants to mention. um, he doesn't expect that the agent and the principal to be always connected, so a permanent or low latency network is not expected nor required. Each workload clusters are autonomous in their own operations, so each workload cluster doesn't need to talk to each other, and then they can reconcile the application and talk to the repo that's defined in that particular cluster, particular Argo CD application configuration definition. So the initial component is always the agent. So this is sort of like our managed cluster drawing, which kind of makes sense because it's a hub and spoke model. So it's meant to be lightweight, but keep extensibility in mind. So what this means is the agent itself is not doing too much besides syncing the statuses, and then reflecting depending on your mode, reflecting the manage application over to the spoke, and enforcing a certain configuration that you user set on the hub controller. So those are the main job of the agent. It's not meant to be replacing the application controller and doing like heavy GitOps operation. It's mostly like a just syncing the spec and the status, so to speak, for Argo CD application. But at the same time, the extensibility that he's trying to mention here is the authentication scheme. He thinks that it should be plug and play, and then with maybe a default mode, and then as well as the syncing of the resources. Right now, it uses gRPC from the client directly connect to the server. Maybe it can leverage, something like Kafka or Maestro or something like that. And then it wants to be secure by default, which is a must. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about the agent modes. It's so the manage mode is quite easy to explain. The manage mode means on the hub cluster side, the application CR that you create gets gets created on the spoke side, depending on where you put your application, right? And then whatever spec changes that you do to the application on a hub, it will reflect it on the spoke side. And if you change something in spoke, the manage mode, as the name will imply, will manage it and uh, change it back to how it's reflected on the hub. So hub is always the source of truth in this mode, and it gives good manageability. So quite similar pattern to what we have in OCM-io as well, with the manifest work API, I would say, and how add-on works. And then the autonomous mode, it's a it's a little bit tricky. So the application is not meant to be created on the hub side. In this mode, each spoke is meant to be quite autonomous, as the name implies, which means you create the application on the spoke side, and then the spec and the statuses get reflected back on the hub. But if you change things on the hub, it won't change anything down on the spoke, because the spoke is actually the source of truth. So how he envisioned this to work is, when you deploy the agent in this autonomous mode, that's probably not the full configuration already. You will also deploy a application CR along with the autonomous agent, and that application CR, it points to a Git repo, and that Git repo contains all the other applications, which means it's the app of apps pattern. And now you're managing the spoke completely through the Git repo. This mode is this mode is a little bit controversial or harder to understand, but the project is new. The scope is quite broad right now. I mean, there's room for discussion and discussion and further enhancements or clarity on what some of those modes are. Okay, let's actually, before I go to the integration with OCM-io, are there any questions? And hopefully I can answer them with my limited understanding of the Argo CD agent project.
Hey, Mike, quick question. For the autonomous mode, is there still required to be, what would it be, a principal in this case?
Yes, the principle is for receiving the reflection of the application on Spoke. So that's why there's still principle. You brought up a great question. So in both modes, at first when I look at the name, right, I thought what it means is manage will always sort of need the connection to the hub to work, and then Thomas is more solo locally, and then can work independently. But that's not the case. Both of these modes, can work if it loses connection to the hub. Both of these modes, as long as have its own repo server that it points to and is running, then both those modes can work completely independently without the hub. So hopefully I answered your question and added a bit more background information.
Yeah, that was helpful. Thank you.
Any other questions before I move on to the integration with OCM-io? Okay, I'm gonna, I'll keep it brief because you guys are probably more experts at OCM-io than me. Well, why we're picking OCM-io? We know that OCM is modular and extensible, right? And then it's perfect because Argo CD is kind of a small project, and then the main goal is trying to remain lightweight. And then our LCMI also provides a nice add-on framework that can really help manage these deployment and the life cycle of these agents, right? So one possible add-on is wrapping the agents, and then you can sort of use the add-on framework to manage the lifecycle either, and also there's rollout strategy in the add-on as well, so you can update and maintaining those add-on those agents easier through this add-on framework. And then OCM-io also have the powerful placement orchestration, right? So there's nothing mentioned before on the application on the Argo CD agent side about orchestration and how to place the where to place the applications, and OCM-io can help with that, right? We especially with the resource collector, add-ons and stuff like that. We can sort of choose the clusters that with more resources and maybe deploy the applications there. And then also the HADR, yeah, HADR, right? High availability disaster recovery. So if some spoke is running some critical workload and then it falls over, OCM-io can sort of shift the application over to another clusters to maintain that high availability. So these are just some of the quick hits on why OCM-io is a natural fit with the Argo CD agent project. Um, okay, I'm gonna do a demo, and let me talk about. Before I go to demo, are there any questions here? Okay, I'm gonna continue on. So in my demo setup right now, I have a hub cluster, and then I have another agent uh, managed cluster, OCM managed cluster, and I have another agent autonomous OCM managed cluster. And then obviously, as the name implied, on this side I have the agent with the autonomous mode deploy, and on the left side it's got the managed mode deploy. And then the agent itself talks to the hub with the Argo CD agent principal install. So on the left side is the hub cluster. So if I do, so we can see that we got the two managed cluster joined here. And then if we look at the namespace, so those are the two managed cluster. And then the Argo CD deploy here has the principal deploy, has the repo server, the server, the UI server, the cache, etc. But notice the application controller is not here. So the application on the hub cluster is not going to be reconciling. On the top right hand corner, I have the managed mode of the of the of the agent spoke deploy. So, oh yes, I should mention. So the agent are deployed through the cluster management add-on. So the agent are deployed through the add-on framework, and then the first level is the cluster management add-on. So in in this way, I define. So this is still up for discussion. I welcome any feedback. Right now, I have them as two separate add-ons instead of having a config variable, that's buried inside the spec of maybe cluster management or in a label or something that's sort of defined if it's managed or autonomous. Most of the main reason I have it separate out like that instead of just one Argo CD agent add-on is because there's different RBAC requirements to the managed and autonomous mode, and they behave quite differently. The behavior itself is quite differently, and I'm not sure if just looking at the add-on itself you can really tell if this is if they're combined into one agent add-on. You can really tell what mode they're in unless you really dig into the variable. So I might be wrong about that. Feel free correctly. And then I have the add-on template for both of them, of course, and then the auto points to the auto template, and then they're deployed through the by creating the managed cluster add-on, and then they're deployed on the namespace, which means for the managed one is on this side, for the autonomous one it's on the bottom side. So if I look at here, oh, so it's the agent is on the agent is deployed through the add-on. And then if I look at the autonomous one, this one is behave a little bit different. I think it's actually deployed on the Argo CD namespace, if I wasn't mistaken. Yeah, so the agent is actually deployed on the Argo CD namespace here. Okay. Okay. So let's look at the. Let's try to apply and manage application. So if I apply and manage application. So when I apply the manage application here, I will get the so it will go down into the managed cluster here, and then get reconcile on here. And then if we look at the app here, it will live in. So we can see the specs and status is all it's all synchronized between the hub and the YAML. And then if I change something here, as I mentioned in the manage mode, what was it again? Agent. Let's say I remove the automated pruning spec, and then I sort of expect the change will be propagated from, so before it had the automated prune, and then if I check it now, so the automated prune is gone. On the autonomous side here, so you're not expected to create the application on the hub. So you're expected to work autonomously on the local cluster, on the spoke cluster itself. So if I look at the app here, so it's sync. And then if I look at the app on this side, it gets it. But in this case, if I were to modify it, so before I save it, notice it's still here. And then if I modify on the hub, because the source of truth is actually on the spoke side, it shouldn't. So it doesn't actually remove the thing at all. I wonder if sort of enforces it. So let me peek at this again. I wonder if it enforces. So it doesn't enforce this from the spoke side to the hub, but the, the I guess it's a spec. It doesn't make sense to reflect. Maybe the status will be always reflected from the spoke to the hub. But yes, so the hub changes here doesn't do anything to the spoke. So that's the main difference in the managed and the autonomous mode. Okay, so there are some interesting links, OCM-io, of course, Argo CD, of course, and this is the main repo. Notice that is in the lab organization, so it's still an experimental repo right now. It's you're gonna have to, if you want to play around with it, you're gonna have to get your hands dirty and work with it a little bit. As for the add-on PR, if you want to give it a try, with the OCM add-on, there's a PR here running, and then I have the instructions on how to set it up when it gets to the agent component, uh, running the agent component using OCM-io. So yeah, that's pretty much it, I think. And then this presentation slide is actually in public. It's if you want to reach to the public side, you go to our website, community calendar, and then just click in community meetings, and then you click on meeting notes. There's these slides, these URLs, and you can check out the history, and then the presentation today slides is in here, and it's a public viewable doc. Okay, are there any questions with this Argo CD integration with OCM-io? In my
So
opinion, oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, so what's the plan of the agent-based solution? When is there any timeline that when they will be released? What?
So, and that actually goes with kind of what I want to get into. You know, we're in an interesting spot right now because we are actually making it easier for people to deploy the agent with our add-on setup, because the repo is quite rough with any instruction requiring the deployment, and we actually make it easier for people to play with. So in my opinion, OCM-io will be the first to the market to kind of introduce this Argo CD agent project out. So once we have it easier to be enabled through cluster admin or whatever, I mean, we'll be the first project with this native Argo CD hub and spoke model. As for when we Argo CD, the agent project itself produce a like a release kind of version that's a little bit more production ready. It's too early to say, right?
Okay,
At, at I'll say at minimum, at absolute minimum, we are 3 months to 6 months away.
I see.
So, but that doesn't mean we cannot make our own push with our just wrapping their existing image with our add-on, and then enable it on the cluster admin, and sort of let the community have an easier way. Right now it's very tough to set it up, the whole thing up. So
Mm,
if we provide easy onboarding way, it'll be a great service to the Argo CD agent community, but also get the word out there for OCM-io as well, because we're the first one to the market with this capability. So
right.
that's a little bit interesting.
So do we looking forward that there will be a Helm chart to hosted by us to install the agent part. Oh, so like for the Argo CD server, so they will have a server will there be like two Helm chart, one Helm chart to install the server and another Helm chart that including um things like agent add-on configurations to install the add-on. Is that what you are thinking?
I'm thinking of just making it easy and just bundle it all in
Okay.
one Helm chart. Because so yes, the application controller is separate from the from the agent, but from a user perspective, they don't really care, or they just want a working instance of Argo CD UI. I mean, working instance of Argo CD with this spoke mode enabled. So I imagine it like you said that it's a Helm chart, that once you install it, you will have the add-on that you can pick either the managed mode or autonomous mode. I'm thinking most likely the managed mode is easier to understand and play with, and that will give the OCM-io community something to play with. Any other questions? The Helm chart is coming. I keep saying I'm working on it. You know,
Okay.
they didn't have they didn't really have a starting manifest, sort of say like, hey, deploy
Mm.
these stuff on the hub and deploy these stuff in the agent on the spoke side, and here it is working. So I had to figure that part out before I make even to what I have right now, and then I'll do the Helm chart as we discussed 2 meetings ago
Yeah.
with the add-on template and stuff. I mean, we are doing the add-on template right now, even in this dev mode, but it's a little bit hacky. But
Okay.
yes, I have the it is on the roadmap, and that won't take 3 or 6 months. That's coming
Yeah.
soon.
Okay.
TM. Any other questions? Again, look forward to the recording that I'll be doing with Jan on this topic as well. Hopefully, I'm able to get him, and then he'll have a much better explanation than me on, especially on the Argo CD agent side. Okay, we have only 5 minutes left. I'll pass it quickly to Q Chang to talk about the release, the point 5 release notes. I'll stop sharing. Oh, I already stopped sharing.
Yes. Let me share.
Okay.
Maybe I'm not sure whether I can. Uh, oh, I need to. I need to restart. Sorry.
No problem.
Yeah. Let me share.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. Yeah. So it will be really quick. Really quick. Oh, it's just... So I create a PR about the release note. Um, here, it's about the 0.15 release. So there are some updated component and some highlighted feature. So I currently list five features. The first one is about we have the Helm official Helm charts hosted in the Helm repo. There's some multi-hub features that you can use to let classic switch between different classlet agents, switch between hubs, among hubs, and there's also some add-on features relating to so basically you can specify two configurations with the same group version kind in the managed cluster add-on. We didn't support that previously, but currently we support that, and and then that configurations can be do something like merge or override. Really only depends on add-on developer itself. So there's other, like we have the configured condition in the managed cluster add-on, so that in the managed cluster add-on status, you will see a new configured condition added when the generic add-on manager is finished the configuration for the managed cluster add-on. That could avoid some recent issues between the add-on manager and the add-on framework itself. And there's also a alpha feature to enable the managed cluster sync between with cluster inventory API from the SIG multi-cluster. So that's also, yeah, I need to update here. That's also guarded by a feature gate. So this is main thing that comes in my mind now. But if anyone has other features that want to highlight in this release, please comment this PR, and anything that you think need to update it, please also comment on this PR. Yeah, I think that's all. Any questions? Okay. Yeah, I will stop sharing.
Thank you, Kujan. Any other last comments and questions? If not, we're right at the end of the time. Thank you everyone for joining. See you all next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.